I found it always hard to break one's practice down to some sentences because then it becomes a bit like a describing of a product. I mean, if you get in touch with an artwork or with an artist, this can become slowly a start for dialogue. For both somehow. Therefore, I want to answer very general. Of course, you can see, for example, that the human body is playing a big role in my work, as well as my interest for rituals or fetishes, or old techniques like the wood firing technique from my ceramics, for example. Well, especially the use of an eye, but other body parts too, is coming for sure from the surrounding in which I grew up. In my parents' or grandparents' workshop, so called ex voto were produced of wax over several hundred years. So when I was young, I grew up between all the casted body parts, and very often I used them as toys. And of course, in the 70s or in the 80s in the south of Germany, there was no more use, no existing offering practice anymore. And nowadays, instead of the workshop, you can find a small museum about this tradition. The body is continuously in transition, in change. Not only the physiognomy, but the perception in society. Especially the last 20 years, when you look how much the idea of the body and many questions referring to human bodies became important to discuss, to change, to develop new ideas. So I don't know what it means showing or having or being real or surreal body or figure. I think the term surreal one can use for describing a certain time in the last century, but if you look in the old or the younger history of art, figurines, figures, bodies, its presentation, representation are quite more than the naturalistic physiognomy. Yes, as I mentioned before, I'm very interested in transition. This is also one of the most fascinating part of ceramic wood firing. This enormous transition from researching, excavating, cleaning, and preparing the clay to forming an object and the process of firing it over many days. This is really something very fascinating. So this taught me a lot about life somehow, about expecting and accepting. In the work, you ask treatment of 15 to 18 gram. It's a work from 2014. The video part of the installation, which I shot in Greece, is actually a remake of a performative work I made during my studies in Nuremberg. But back then, I have been alone in this very moment and I had no chance to document the action. So, in Greece, unfortunately, there are a lot of overrun and dead animals along the street. And one day, I found this robin and I decided to act and to repeat like I did 15 years ago. And the approximate weight of a robin is 15 to 18 gram. Yes, of course, there are many names which had been important for my work. And for example, remember very, very good in my studies the short film The Perfect Human from Jörn Lett from 1967. This was such a big impact for me, for example. But also like studies like of the artists like Giorgio Morandi, Francesco, Agnes Martin, Louis Bourgeois, or Francis Bacon, or a writer like Georges Didi Übermann or Boris Groys, or the art historian Jörg Scheller I'm working with for many, many years. So, yeah, of course, the list is really long. And at the moment, I read some technical books about ceramics and neurophysics or sociology or plants or gardens.